Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 10, and I've got my wide receiver rankings for you, my wide receiver ones and wide receiver twos, to try and help you out with your start sit questions on the week. If you have 3 or 4 guys, hey Al, pick 2 or pick 3 of this list of wide receivers that I have on my team. Play the guys that I have ranked higher on the list instead of playing the guys I have ranked lower. You can go through, you can see we've got the nice placard up there for you to be able to choose from and look through very simply and quickly, or you can stay here for the entire video and listen to my explanations on every player and why I have them where I have them. So thank you guys for being here. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, leave me a reply down below letting me know how you've enjoyed the content this year. Just say hi. That's all. Just, hi, how you doing? Good to see you. Glad you're here. Let's go.
He's a legend.
At the number 1 spot for the second week in a row is Tyreek Hill. Miami's wide receiver has just been outstanding, leading the league in basically everything and when it comes to pass catching, except for touchdowns. He did score one last week, getting there on volume more often than not, averaging 24.7 fantasy points per game, has a fantastic matchup against Cleveland. Easy pick at number 1. It does get jumbled this week because all the quarterbacks are hurt for whatever reason, but you know who's not hurt? Kirk Cousins. He's not hurt. Justin Jefferson also not hurt, averaging 108.4 receiving yards per game, just having another ridiculous season. He just goes along and does what he does. 23.6 fantasy points per game, really high expectation for targets and catches in what could be a shootout against Buffalo, and I have him ranked above Stephon Diggs, who I probably would have ranked 1 or 2 if not for the fact that there is a question mark of whether Josh Allen is going to play in this game, and I believe that it greatly affects everything on that Buffalo offense and the players that are on the other side. Justin Jefferson's going to eat. That's just the thing. Whether their favorites are behind, whether the game is slow or fast, they just run their offense through JJ right now, which is very smart. However, if Josh Allen doesn't play in this game, Stephon Diggs really falls down my rankings to somewhere around 7 or 8. I have him here at 3. If there was no question mark around Josh Allen, I'd probably have him at 2, but this is where he sits currently based on everything. Revenge game for him. I'm going up against Minnesota. Big advantage spot for him versus their cornerbacks that they have. This is a feast spot if Josh Allen's elbow is fine, and I hope that it's fine. Another player who's basically been 1 or 2 all year long, basically number 1 all year long, averaging 26.8 fantasy points per game in PPR is Cooper Kupp, but I have him at number 4 because now we have Matthew Stafford in concussion protocol. If Stafford does not play in this game against Arizona, that drops Cooper Kupp even further down this list. He's still going to have a good floor because he'll get peppered with targets, but how many times are they actually going to throw it? And with a less efficient, less talented quarterback under center, 8 targets might be the realistic possibility instead of 9 through 15 targets on an every week basis like he's seen. So as the touchdown expectation goes down, as the volume expectation goes down, he will continue to tumble down my rankings. Everything is kind of up in the air right now. This is a very, very, very weird week. Devontae Adams comes in at number 5. We saw once again how great a player he was last week, catching 10 of 17 balls headed his way for 146 and 2 touchdowns. Even though the Raiders are a complete dumpster fire, Devontae Adams remains a superstar. Behind him at 6 is DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Hopkins has been fantastic since returning. He had the one bad game last week. He had 13.6 fantasy points in that one, caught a touchdown, kind of bailed himself out against Seattle. Only got 5 targets in that game, averaging 24.6 on the season. But now news just came across Twitter, and guess what? It's from an actual real account, not like one of the fake accounts. It's trying to be a parody and jump around and confuse people. Not the not Adam Schefter accounts, but DeAndre Hopkins is tied to Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray is now dealing with an injury, a hamstring injury. Monitor his situation. If there is no Kyler Murray, then DeAndre Hopkins becomes a bigger question mark than if you have Kyler under center. I always want that talented quarterback to go along with these alpha wide receivers. They're still going to get targeted, but the range, the variance between the floor and the ceiling is so much wider than when they have their regular signal caller taking the snaps. Amon-Ra, this is where it kind of settles down. Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 7 for Detroit. We didn't get what we wanted out of him last week, but we did get 9 targets. Only caught 4 of them for 55 yards. So a disappointing day from Amon-Ra St. Brown, but very encouraging. Did have 9 targets, following up on the 10 targets he had the week before. He's going to be one of the most voluminous, highest volume guys in the league for the entire second half of the season. You're playing him with absolute confidence. At number 8, I have Jalen Waddle. Just look, hopefully you drafted Jalen Waddle, and hopefully you drafted Tyreek Hill, or if you drafted Tyreek Hill, hopefully you went out and you acquired Jalen Waddle, or the other way around, because basically they're the best receiving duo that's on one team that exists. And it's extremely easy. Right now, you're gonna have to deal with some things next week when they go on by, but until then, Waddle's got 6 touchdowns, averaging 19.7 PPR points per game, and I have him just ahead of AJ Brown. I don't want to say boomer bust, but he's kind of boomer bust. Just based on, one, how many options they have in this Philadelphia offense. He's getting a solid amount of targets, 6 targets, 10, 8, 7, 7 each of the last 5 games, averaging 19.6 fantasy points on the year. However, that's greatly affected by the 42.6 points he put up, that average, right? Like, more consistently, he's in the mid-teens range, 15, 17, 14. He's seen a floor of like 6.2. So you're expecting like, I don't know, 16, 17 fantasy points out of AJ Brown week in, week out. Good matchup against Washington this week, an island game. So you know that the Eagles are going to be ready and want to show out against their division opponent. Love AJ Brown once again this week. Just what he's done for that offense is just absolutely tremendous. Now, Amari Cooper is here at 10, and I'm sure that those of you who live on Narrative Street are going to jump on this and say, there's no way that I'd have Amari Cooper ranked in my top 10 or in my top 12 on a week where they're playing away from home, because he is averaging 5.7 PPR points in away games this year and 23.1 when playing at home. And I know that he had similar splits when he was in Dallas, but like, guys, come on, you're playing him, and you know that they're playing against Miami, who is a defense that is susceptible to giving up passing points. You know that offenses come in there knowing they're going to have to score points against Miami. You're not going to hold that offense to under 20, so you've got to score over 20 yourself. This is a great position once again for Amari Cooper. I am starting him if I've got him in that spot. There's no way I'm going to talk myself out of starting him this week. CeeDee Lamb comes in right behind him at 11. All the rumors of OBJ coming to town, I think, would actually make a better, like, it would make CeeDee Lamb better. As weird as that sounds, right? The thought of, well, if you bring another guy in, there's only one football to go around and they can't give it to everybody. It's like, but he would see less attention. There would be other people to take attention away from him. And it's not as though OBJ is over the hill. Obviously, he's had 2 knee injuries, but if we get 90% of what OBJ's prime is in Dallas, CeeDee Lamb will continue to shine. 7 targets, 6 targets, 10 targets, 8 the last 5 games, 14.6 PPR points per game on the year. At number 12, rounding out my top 12, Mike Evans. It's got to get better. It's got to get better for Tampa Bay. There's no way that it stays this bad. And there's no way that a player who's seen double-digit targets in his last 3 games, but only catching 5, 6, and 9 balls on 11, 11, and 15 targets, and has seen no touchdowns for the one wide receiver who's created the most touchdowns in the league the last 3 years, is going to sustain. The volume will lead to the end zone. It's not like he's not getting red zone and end zone targets. He's certainly getting those. We just haven't seen them capitalize and score touchdowns because Tom is too busy worrying about Giselle and FTX and everything else that's going wrong in his life. So hopefully they can get things together this weekend. At number 13, Chris Olave, the rookie from New Orleans. He's going to get a lot of targets. I love volume, guys. I absolutely love volume. And I like the big playability that we know that he has that goes along with him, but like we haven't really seen it all that much. Now, Pittsburgh's been susceptible to the deep pass numerous times this year. 9 targets, 7 targets, 14 targets the last 3 games for Olave. In the absence of Jarvis Landry and Mike Thomas, the only 2 guys that they can reasonably throw the ball to with any sort of volume is Olave and Alvin Kamara, and they've done just that. So play the predictable volume and let everything else fall where it falls. Speaking of projectable volume, Juju Smith-Schuster. 8 targets basically every week this year. There's been 2 weeks this year he did not see 8 targets. Week 6 against Buffalo, week 2 against the Chargers. Every other week, 8 targets exactly, except for last week against Tennessee where he saw 12. But let's assume that that only happened. He would have had 8 if they didn't run like 90 plus plays on the day and throw it 68 times, which is absurd. An absurd amount of volume in that passing game. So Juju should get his 8 targets, averaging 14.9 per game on the year. Behind him, I have Christian Kirk. Up and down for sure, but averaging 14.8, has a good matchup against Kansas City. Kansas City's defense has not done a great job at stopping opposing wide receivers unless their quarterback is Malik Willis. So in other normal games with actual NFL caliber quarterbacks, teams do have to chase. They are put in pass game scripts more often than they're not against Kansas City, which means that they're going to drop back 70+% of the time. More volume for Christian Kirk and that Trevor Lawrence led Jaguars offense can give us that really high target expectation. Instead of seeing like 5 or 3 like he did against Indy or Houston, it's going to be more along the lines of the 9, 7, and 10 targets that Christian Kirk saw the last 3 weeks. That's I've got him in here at number 15. At number 16, DK Metcalf. The big playability exists. We just haven't seen it actualized as much as we saw it in previous years. Geno Smith is doing very well. Can't take anything away from him, but he has not been able to unlock DK Metcalf's downfield ability. Along of 9, 15, 12, and 17 in the last month of play. So the first few weeks were around the same, and then week 4 and 5 he connected for a 54-yard pass and a 50-yard touchdown, but then defenses adjusted once again to everything that they're doing. So what used to be an every game occurrence for DK Metcalf now is highly unpredictable, but the volume is very, very solid, and Geno has been effective. And because he's been effective, I have Metcalf pegged here at number 16. Behind him, Tyler Lockett. Let's stay with the same team. Good matchup against Tampa Bay. Weird to be able to say that, but like Tampa Bay has been weird, right? Their offense is not putting a lot of pressure on teams. They're still not a team that you want to attack on the ground, so I can see them having a lot of easy receptions to Metcalf and Lockett. It's hard to choose between them. I'll always choose Metcalf over Lockett just because of the heightened touchdown expectation due to size, end zone targets, and big playability. Chris Godwin, I guess we're just talking about all players from this game at this point. It's a weird week again with all the bye weeks. So we're just going to focus on Germany here. And Godwin has a really solid floor, but very little upside so far. Has not scored a touchdown since he came back, has not scored a touchdown this year, but he has had 6 catches or more in every game since week 4. He has not scored single digit fantasy points for you in any week. 10.7, 13.5, 11.5, 15.5, 12.3. Very reliable. Double digit targets in each of the last 4 games. Not doing a really good job of getting open this year, which is understandable coming off of the knee surgery that he had last year. But you're getting like it's nice. It's not thrilling. You're just getting a floor. You know, you're probably not getting a 30-point outcome where like in previous years, that was always a part of the range of outcomes for Chris Godwin. That's just not the case anymore, unfortunately. Behind Godwin at number 19, I have Deebo Samuel. Now, he's got a questionable by his name, still dealing with that hamstring, but expected to play against the Chargers. Have been a hot mess all over the field. When Deebo has played, he has been extremely electric. Yes, they have Christian McCaffrey now, and he's just going to do what he does, right? It's not like they weren't feeding the running backs before. They're still feeding the running back now. He is going to eat up some more targets, but I do like the pass catchers for this San Francisco offense. Deebo I have here at 19. I have Ayuk at number 20. Hard to separate between the two. We're not going to see as many rush attempts from Deebo, and thankfully, right? Like I want more targets than I want running attempts. It's never good. I know he scored a lot of touchdowns with them last year. It was something that we had said all offseason that was not sustainable for him. And Ayuk is doing a good job himself. Like, again, this is a hard to separate situation. 20 fantasy points, 15 fantasy points, 28 fantasy points the last 3 games for Brandon Ayuk. Last game was CMC's first game, and Deebo did not play in that one against the Rams. Coming off a bye week, everybody should be a little bit more healthy. We have a spot for them where they can kind of attack. And the problem is the touchdowns is what's keeping me from ranking them higher, because now there's way too many mouths to feed on this offense, and the touchdowns are going to take on increased variance. Josh Palmer should remain a really high volume play. Keenan Allen is day to day, but then again, aren't we all? He did not practice on Wednesday. We don't know what his status is going to be. Assuming that he is out, I'm going to guess we're going to get the same amount of volume of snaps and targets for somebody like Josh Palmer, which is to say he should see double digit, let's say a floor of 8 targets in any sort of situation. It's not a great matchup, as San Francisco is a fantastic defense, and the offensive line for the Chargers has been an absolute mess. But like, even those short targets do add up when you get enough of them, and they're really highly convertible from targets to catches. Caught 9 of 12 balls in week 6, caught 8 of 10 balls in week 9, and went for 106 yards in that one. I dropped DJ Moore to 22. Now, I like the matchup. Obviously, he had a great game against them the last time, right? It was where he caught that. It wasn't a Hail Mary. They just went deep downfield in the game where both of these teams scored like 71 total points. He had 30.5 PPR points that game, caught 6 of 11 targets for 152 and a tutty. The game before that, 7 of 10 for 69 yards and a touchdown in that one. But we might be dealing with a tropical storm in this one. And it might be like a splishy, splashy sort of game situation. So as Thursday night gets closer, monitor the field conditions, because if it does appear to be a game where they're not going to be able to throw the ball more than like 10 or 12 times, this could be a week where you sit DJ Moore. So he's 22, but with a down arrow. Looking at where some other people had ranked him, they had him in like the top 14, top 15, top 13. I can't do that. Not with the situation that is coming with the weather there. Massive winds, full-on tropical storm. Field might be a complete hot mess. So take a look before you play him on Thursday night and make your decisions before then. Deontay Johnson comes in at number 23. I can't turn my head away from the volume. Yes, it has been ineffective so far. He has not caught a ball downfield like in weeks, months, whatever at this point. But double-digit targets are expected, especially in the absence of Chase Claypool. Does a great job of earning targets, does Deontay Johnson. So, yes, there are vacated targets there. No, they're not going to change the way that they run their offense. And he does a good job of earning them on his own. One of the best wide receivers in short to intermediate routes at gaining separation and providing an easy target for his quarterback. And behind him, Terry McLaurin, rounding everything out at number 24. Really tough matchup here. Would love to rank him higher, but can't because of the matchup against Philadelphia. He's going to catch Slay. He's going to catch Bradbury. I love the fact, while I don't think that his quarterback is, let's say, a good NFL quarterback right now, I've said the same thing last year. All apologies to Heineke's family, but like, he's a fill-in guy. He's good for us in fantasy though, and that's really all that matters, right? He targets the hell out of Terry McLaurin, where McLaurin was not getting that sort of repeated targets every single week since Heineke took over. 8 targets, 9 targets for Terry McLaurin. Things you absolutely love to see. Scored 1 touchdown in that range. They're going to be throwing in this game as they project to play from behind. Hopefully McLaurin can oops his way into like 5, 6, 7 catches for you, averaging 13.1 fantasy points on the year, averaging close to 16.5 since Heineke took over. I'm hoping for that average this week, that he can get you into double digits because of the really tough matchup. I wish you the best of luck in your games. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.